Now you should be at the password screen. If you have already been given a password, simply click on your name and type in your password. If you're not sure how this screen works, you might need to get help from somebody else in the office and use their password. Remember, always make sure your caps lock key is not locked down because passwords are case sensitive. In other words, if you type in all capitals and your password is all small case, the computer will not register that. After you've entered the password, SoftFoot should take you to the banner screen. This is the main SoftFoot screen. Now that you're in the program, our first task will be learning how to put in a new patient. To begin, pull down the patient menu by taking the mouse and pointing where the word patient appears. Click and hold the button down on the mouse and drag down until you get to where it says Insert Patient. This is where you go to insert a new patient into the computer. If you let go of the button on the mouse, the word New Insert Patient should flash at you, and it should take you to a patient entry screen. The number in the upper left-hand corner of the screen is the patient's account number. This is the number which SoftFoot uses to reference patients. Each new patient is given an account number. If you're following along on your computer, please write this number down, because we're going to need it later on to delete this patient. Look in the area to the right of last name. There should be a cursor flashing there. The cursor is where any text you type in the computer will appear. Type in the name Lou Who, spelled L-E-W-W-H-O. Then push the Tab key on your keyboard. This will take you to the first name field. Whenever you want to move from field to field, you do this by hitting either the Tab or the Return key. Notice that it was not necessary to capitalize the last name because SoftFoot does it for you automatically. Type in the name Susan here, then push the Tab or Return key. See how pushing Tab or Return moves you to the next field? If you need to move backwards, hold down the Shift key and push Tab or Return. This should move you backwards through the fields. Type in the middle initial X, then push the Tab key again. This should now move you down to the street address. Type in 65 Green Lane as shown here, then push the Tab key. Notice that we skip over city and state, and flashing cursor now appears in the zip code field. This is because SoftFoot learned zip codes that correspond to different cities and states. Type in 5 sevens here. A dialog box should pop up here asking you if you want to save this zip code. Again, read the dialog box and then click the word OK. Now you should be taken to a zip code entry screen. Type in the name Whoville here, then push the Tab key on the keyboard. Now type in the letters SC. These are the state abbreviation for South Carolina. Notice we don't use any periods in these fields, and SoftFoot automatically capitalizes the letters. Now click OK with the mouse. Whenever you enter a city in the SoftFoot, use only the state abbreviation. This zip code will be saved now. You should now be back at the main patient entry screen. The cursor should now be in the phone number field. Type in the numbers 555-5555, then push Tab. Notice that SoftFoot automatically puts in the correct area code for your area. Do the same with the work number field. This should take you to the birth date field. When entering in dates in the SoftFoot, you need to enter in either slashes, dashes, or spaces between the month, the day, and the year. But you do not need to enter in any zeros. Please type in the date 3/8/68. Then push Tab. SoftFoot will automatically put the numbers in the correct format. The age of the person should appear to the right. If you ever have to enter in a person who was born before the year 1901, you would have to enter in the entire year. Now enter the number 987654321 into the Social Security number field. You don't need to use dashes, slashes, or spaces here. After you have typed in this number, SoftPut should automatically bring you to the facility field. It's not necessary to hit the tab key here because SoftPut knows that Social Security numbers only have 9 numbers in them. When entering in a patient's facility, it's important not to enter the same facility with different names. To see a list of the facilities that are in the computer, click on the black area where you see the word facility. A list of facilities should appear on the upper right-hand corner of the screen. You can close this window by clicking once in the little square in the upper left-hand corner of the window. Now type in the word Whoville Hospital and push the tab key. SoftPut should ask you if you want to enter this facility into the computer. Again, read the dialog box and then click once on the word OK. Now just type in the address as shown on the computer. Don't worry about accuracy here because we will be deleting this. After you've entered the phone number and pushed return, SoftPut should bring up a window with list of choices for POS. POS stands for the place of service. Click on the name Inpatient Hospital here. The number which corresponds to Inpatient Hospital should now appear in the box. Now take the mouse over to the area where it says Type of Facility. Click on Hospital. The bottom boxes allow you to determine where, if anywhere, that you need this facility to print out on the HCFA form. These boxes are called checkboxes. To activate them, either take the mouse and click on them or push the space bar. They are active when there's an X in the box. To better understand what these boxes refer to, you should probably be familiar with the new HCFA form. If you're not familiar with it, how about going and getting a red HCFA form and pausing the tape? Don't worry, we'll wait for you. Good, you're back. Now let's look at boxes 32 and 33 in the bottom right-hand corner of the new HCFA form. These are the boxes where the facilities are shown. In this case, you probably don't want this facility to print out in box 33 because this is where the insurance company will normally send the money. This area is usually reserved for the main office address. Instead, you want this facility to print out in box 32. So click once here. You don't want this address to print as the doctor's name or address on the bills and statements, so don't click on any of these. When you're finished, go up to the upper right-hand corner and click once on the word OK. Now you should be in the medical doctor field. This is the patient's medical doctor. To see a list of the medical doctors that are already in the computer, take the mouse and click once on the black area where it says medical doctor. Again, a window should appear in the upper right-hand corner listing all of the referring physicians that are in the computer. You can close this window by clicking once in the square in the upper left-hand corner. Now type in the name Zeus in the field here. Then push the tab key. SoftPut should bring up a dialog box asking if you want to enter this doctor into the computer. Again, read the box and click once on the word OK. This should take you to a referral entry screen. Notice how SoftPut asks for the doctor's information. You could enter in fictitious information here for a fictitious patient, but you're not going to bother. Notice the space here for UPIN number. UPIN stands for Unique Physician Identification Number. Push tab or return until you get to the UPIN field. Type in Z11111. This is a very important number to have when entering in a medical doctor's information. Also notice that in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a box which is labeled referral type. The options listed here are called radio buttons. Of the 6 options, the one listed medical doctor is already selected. You can tell it's selected because there's a little black dot inside the circle here. This is the option you want. If this was a different type of referral, you would simply take the mouse and click on the other type. Now click OK to return to the main patient entry screen. This should take you to the referral field. The referral field is where you put the last name of the person or thing that referred the patient to the practice. Note that this name does not print on the insurance claim form. It is listed here so that you can track how your patients have been referred to your office. To see a list of all the referrals that are already in the computer, click once in the black area where it says Referred By. A window should appear in the upper right-hand corner listing all the referrals that are in the computer. If you need to see more of the referrals, you would simply use the scroll bar to go up and down in the list. Now close this window by clicking once in the square in the upper left-hand corner. Enter in the words Whoville News here. Then push Tab. Again, when SoftEasy asks you if you want to save the info, click OK. This should bring you to a screen very similar to the one for Medical Doctor. The only thing you have to do here is click on Advertisement in the referral type box. Then click once on OK. It's important for you to keep referral information as accurate as possible. The information you enter here will allow SoftEasy to track referrals. In this way, you'll be able to acknowledge anyone who refers many people to the office. It also helps you to determine the effectiveness of your advertising and marketing. Now you should be at the Date First Seen field. This is where you enter in the date that the patient was first seen at your office. Leaving today's date here will indicate that this is a new patient being seen for the first time. In this case, we're going to leave today's date here and push Tab. Again, it's very important to be as accurate as possible with this information because it allows SoftEasy to determine which patients are considered new and which are considered existing patients. This will take you to the patient's gender checkbox. Now push the space bar on the keyboard to switch the patient's gender between male and female. Push the space bar until the correct gender is selected, then hit the return key. With SoftEasy, it is possible to accept assignment on a patient-by-patient basis. This is where you indicate whether or not you accept assignment for this particular patient. When you accept assignment, it means that your office is accepting predetermined charges for a specific insurance company. To change this from yes to no, push the space bar. Then push the Tab key. You should have it left on yes. The patient entry screen is what is called a U-shaped screen. If you follow the shape of the U, you are now working your way up the right-hand side of the screen. The first item that you come to is Add Insurance Company. With the mouse, click once on this button. This should bring us to the Insurance Company entry screen. Now take the mouse and click on the black area where it says Insurance Company. This should bring up a list of all the insurance companies that are in this computer. If you wish to select one of these insurance companies, you'd simply take the mouse and click on the insurance company you wish to select. You can close this window by clicking once in the little square in the upper left-hand corner. Since you want to practice adding an insurance company, type in the name Acne Care. The computer should ask you if you want to add this insurance company. Click OK. Now we should go to a screen used for adding insurance companies. This screen is where you enter information for a particular insurance company into the computer. You do not want to enter information here which relates to a specific patient. Type in the address as follows on the screen. After you get to the phone number, you should come to a spot which is labeled Form Number. This field is what is called a pop-up menu. When you take the mouse and click and hold on this area here, a list of choices should pop up. This is a list of all the different forms that SoftEasy can print. The form that is currently selected is probably the one that you want. When it is highlighted, let go of the mouse and it should appear in the field. The letters after the form number indicate what type of form it is. For example, 52 New HICFA DW means the new HICFA form, the red one, for the Hewlett-Packard DeskWriter printer. The form number is just a way for SoftEasy to differentiate between the many different forms it can print. The flashing cursor should now be in the copayment field. Copayment is the amount that this insurance company does not pay. For an insurance company that pays 8%, you would enter 20 here. Then you would make sure that percent of fee is selected to the right. If the insurance company pays everything except a fixed co-payment amount, an example would be $5 per visit fee, then enter this amount here. Then push the tab key. After you push the tab key, you should be in the Insurance Notes field. This notes field is available for you to add any notes that relate to a particular insurance company. You don't want to put notes here that relate to a particular patient. An example of the type of notes you might use here would be if you had an extension of somebody at the insurance company who is particularly helpful. Type in, "This is not a real insurance company" here. If you have "Do not print doctor's info," box 33, selected to the right here, then the doctor's name and address will not appear in box 33 whenever you print up claim forms for this particular insurance company. You should not want this to print here if you had forms which had the doctor's information pre-printed in this area. If Submit Electronically is selected, software would allow you to submit your claims through a modem. If your office is not set up for ECS, you would not be using this option. We won't be reviewing electronic claim submission in this video, so you do not want this option selected. Sometimes insurance companies have place of services and type of services which are different than universal codes. Clicking once on the alternate POS and TOS button allows you to type in new TOS and POS codes for a specific insurance company. Why don't you click once on here so we can take a look at this screen? In order to add in a different POS or TOS code for this insurance company, you would click on the box for the alternate code you wish to add in. Then you would click on the word Add. This should bring up a window on the right-hand side which would show you the list of all the universal codes. Now you would simply click on the code that you want to put in an alternate code for, push Return, and type in the alternate code. When you are finished typing in these codes, you would click on the Return button with the mouse in the upper right-hand corner. Clicking on the Other Info button from the main insurance screen should bring you to a screen where you can put in alternate provider and PIN numbers for a particular doctor or doctors in the practice. Simply click on Add and type in a few letters of the doctor's name, then push Tab. Then type in the provider number and the PIN number. Fill in any of the other areas with information that relates specifically to this insurance company. For example, you would type in a Medigap ID number if you had one for this insurance company. Enable Box 17 printing allows the referring physician's name and UPIN number to be printed in Box 17 and 17A of the new HCFA form. Now click Return so we can get back to the main screen. Now you're finished with entering in this new insurance company, you can take the mouse and click on the OK button in the upper right-hand corner. This should take you back to the patient's insurance information screen. Keep in mind all the information we just entered in was for that one particular insurance company. Now our cursor should be flashing in the Insurance ID number field. This is where you enter in the patient's insurance ID number or policy ID number. In this case, the patient's ID number is the same as the Social Security number from the previous screen. To bring this number up, simply click one time in the black area where it says ID number. This should bring up the patient's Social Security number and allow you to put in a letter after it. We can put in a letter because the cursor is flashing at the end of the number. Type in the letter A. Then push the Tab key to move on to the next field. Now your cursor should be in the patient's group number field. This would be where you would enter in the patient's group number. You don't have to enter anything here. Simply hit the Tab key. Now you should be in the group name field. Enter in any group here and then push the Tab key. This should take us to the insured's last name field. This is where you would put the information that indicates whose policy it is. If this was the patient's self-insurance, you would simply take the mouse and click on the word self in the relation to insured box on the right here. In this case, this is the spouse's insurance. Type in the name FUD here. Then push the Tab key. You should now be in the insurance first name field. Please enter the name Elvira here and then push the Tab key. Simply type the word same in the insured street field. This indicates that the patient's address is the same as that of the insured's. If the insured's address was different than the patient's, you could enter in the different information here. Push Tab until you get down to the employer school field. This is where you would enter in the patient's employer or school. Please enter the words Acme Industries here and then push the Tab key. The cursor should now be in the 10B override field. This is where you would write in information that you would want to print out on line 10B of the new HCFA form if it was different than what is currently printing on the form. Do not enter anything here. Just push the Tab key. Now you should be in the Signature on File field in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. When this is turned on, there's an X in the checkbox. SoftEasy will indicate whether you accept assignment or not in the proper places on the form. If you push the space bar now, this field should switch back between accepting assignment and not accepting assignment. Click OK when you're finished with this screen. This should take us back to the main patient entry screen. Normally, you would repeat the above steps for each additional insurance company that this patient had. The order in which the insurance companies are entered into SoftEasy determines the status of that insurance company. Therefore, the first one entered in would be the primary insurance, the second entered would be secondary insurance, etc. In this case, the patient only has a single insurance company, so we're finished here. Notice now that you have three options available in the patient's insurance field. The first is Add Insurance Company. This is what you choose whenever you want to enter a new insurance company for the patient. The second option is Edit Insurance Company. This allows you to change a patient's insurance information. An example of when you would need this option is if you need to change a patient's ID number. The third option is Delete Insurance Company. You would only use this if you needed to completely remove a patient's insurance company from that patient's file. Now you should be in the Copy Medical Doctor to Treatment Entry field. This is a checkbox. When this field is selected, the name of the medical doctor entered on this screen will be automatically transferred to the treatment entry screen. This allows the medical doctor's name to print out on the proper places on the claim form. Please make sure there's an X in this box. Now click once on the Patient Notes button. This should take us to a text field where you can enter notes specific to this particular patient. An example of some of the things you could enter in this field would be allergies or personal information. These notes will only appear in inter-office communications. They won't show up on the patient's bills or statements. Type in, "This is not a real patient" here. Then click the return key with the mouse. The last area we'll be looking at on this screen is More Information. Take the mouse now and click once on the More Information button. At the top of the screen, you should see the area for Alternate Responsible Billing Information. This is where you would enter information for the person or party who you want to send the bills and statements to if it is not the patient. An example would be if you do not want to send a bill to a child. You could put the parent's information here. Another example would be if you have a nursing home patient whose bills are sent to an executor. Leave this area blank if you want the bills and statements sent to the name and address from the patient entry screen. Now push the Tab key until you get down to the Statement Comment field. This field is used to enter in a comment that will appear only on the patient's statements. For more information about statements and bills, go to the section on Patient Accounts. Push Tab here to move to the next field. The last treatment date field will automatically update when this patient has treatments entered into the computer. It is one of many ways to see when the last time the patient was treated. Don't enter anything here. Push the Tab key so you move to the Salutation field. This is where you give the patient a title like Father, Doctor, Mrs., Miss, Mr., etc. You don't have to enter anything here. Pushing the tab key now takes you to the recall date field. Normally, this gives us the date that the patient is due to be recalled for another treatment. You could enter in a recall date here, but normally you would enter this in when entering in the patient's treatment. Push the tab key, please. Now take the mouse down and click and hold down on the field labeled None to the right of marital status. This is a pop-up menu. You can tell it's a pop-up menu because it looks like there's a shadow behind it. Moving the mouse while holding the button down allows you to select different items in here. Select the item Married and let go of the button. Do the same thing in the field below it to the right of Employment Status. We want to select Employed here. Now take the mouse up and click on the button labeled Main Screen. This takes us back to the main patient entry screen. If you click on the Help button here, SoftEasy will display a help screen which gives you information about the patient entry screen. These help buttons are located throughout the program. To get back to the main screen, click OK here. If you were to click Cancel here, the patient information you entered would not be saved. Clicking OK here will save all the information we have entered. We will be selecting OK. If you were to click OK on Next here, it would take you to a blank patient entry screen. You would choose this option if you were entering in more than one new patient. Clicking OK on Treatment here would allow you to enter in a treatment for this patient. You will be entering in a treatment for this patient, but we'll be getting to the treatment entry screen a different way. Now click OK. This should take you back to the SoftEasy 2 banner screen. Congratulations, you've completed patient entry. Next, Robin will be showing you how to enter in treatments.
Hi, I'm Robin, and I'm going to tell you about treatment entry. But first, I'm going to show you how to edit a patient. Sometimes you may want to view or change a patient's information after they have been entered as a patient. To do this, go to Patient and select Edit Patient. This will bring you to a patient search screen. In order to access the patient's information here, you need to type in a single whole piece of information.
Type in the patient's last name, then hit the Tab or Return key.
Then click OK with the mouse. If it was typed incorrectly, it should bring you to Patient Info screen. Whenever you're putting something into SoftEasy for the first time, you want to insert or add. Whenever you want to change something that was already entered into the computer, you want to edit that piece of information. This is true for everything in SoftEasy. Now that you've entered the patient's info, you're now ready to enter a treatment for the patient. Remember, you cannot enter a treatment for a patient until they've been entered into the computer as a patient. Go to the Treatment menu and select Insert Treatment. This will bring us to the blank treatment entry screen. The number which appears in the upper left-hand corner of the screen is a claim number. It is a reference number that is specific to the particular claim. You will probably notice that this number is different than the patient's account number. Unlike the patient's account number, you do not need to note this number in the patient's file. Just be aware of what it is. The flashing cursor should now appear in the last name account number field.
Type in the patient's last name or account number, then hit the Tab or Return key.
Now you can enter in the treatment date for this particular treatment. Note that it defaults to today's date. Since you will be using today as a treatment date, simply push the Tab key to move on to the next field. The next field is for the last name of the doctor who treated the patient. Type in the treating doctor's last name here and push the Tab key. This next field is where you determine who this patient's referring physician is. Since you had entered a medical doctor on the patient entry screen and selected Copy MD to Treatment Entry, The name Seuss should appear here. You can override this by typing in a different medical doctor's last name here. If nothing is entered here, then the treating doctor's information will print on the new HICVA form. When the correct name is entered here, push the Tab key. This should put us in the facility field. This is the facility where services are rendered. The facility you had entered in on the patient entry screen should appear here. If not, type in the facility name here. If the facility where the treatment was performed differs from the one where the patient is normally seen, then you would enter in the different facility here. When the facility name is correct, push the Tab key. Whatever facility we chose here should be the one that is indicated on the insurance claim. Now the cursor should be in the diagnosis field. This is where you enter in the patient's primary diagnosis. The diagnosis entered here will appear in box 21 of the HICVA form. To see a list of all the diagnoses in the computer, hold down the Shift key and type a 2. The @ sign that appears here is known as the wildcard. Remember, you only want a single @ sign here. Then push the Tab key. A list of all the diagnoses in the computer should appear in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. Close this window by clicking the little square in the upper left-hand corner of the screen. Now you may notice that you have jumped ahead to the column labeled DX24E. Hold down the Shift key and push Tab once. This will move us back to the diagnosis field. Type in the numbers 999.99Z here and push the Tab key. The computer should ask you if you wish to add this diagnosis code. Click OK. This should take you to a diagnosis code entry screen. Now you should be in the ICD-9-CM field. Enter in the number 999.99 here. This is the code which will print on the form. Then push the Tab key. This will take you to the description field. Type in Practice Diagnosis 1 here. Now click OK. Doing this should bring you back to the treatment entry screen and put the cursor in Diagnosis column 24E. Whatever is typed in this column will appear in box 24E of the HICVA form. This is where you relate the procedure code that you are about to enter into the diagnosis that it relates to. If the procedure you're about to enter in here relates only to the first diagnosis, simply type a 1. If this procedure relates to the first and the second diagnosis, then type in 1, 2 here. Since you're going to have one procedure and 2 diagnoses, type in 1, 2 here. If you are unfamiliar with this part of the HICVA form, consult someone regarding proper way to fill out this area. After you have entered the numbers, pushing the Tab key will take us to the date field. This is the date that was entered above the treatment date field. You can change this date for each particular procedure. In this case, this procedure has the same date, so just push the Tab key. You should now be at the POS field. This is the place of service code for the facility that was entered above. Since our place of service should be correct, you can push the Tab key to move on to the procedure field. Now you should enter the procedure code that you want to appear in the first position in column 24D on the HICVA form. If you wanted to see a list of the procedures in SoftFoot, you could type in the wildcard here. Remember, the wildcard is the @ sign. Type in 01010Z here. After the correct number has been entered, push the Tab key. SoftFoot should ask you if you want to add this procedure code. Click OK. This will take you to a procedure entry screen. Type in 01010 in the CPT code field. This is the code which will print out on the form. Then push the Tab key. Now enter in a charge amount of $100. This is how much we will charge for this procedure. Then push the tab key. This should take you to the description field. Type in Practice Procedure 1 here and push the tab key. A window should now pop up with the choices for TOS. This is where we determine what the type of service this procedure is. Click on Medical Care with the mouse. This should put a 1 in this field. Then push the tab key. On the bottom of the screen are 2 checkboxes. The first allows the physician to print out in box 17 on the HCFA form. The second box allows necessary information to print out in box 19 for this procedure. Make sure both of these checkboxes are on. Now take the mouse and click on the OK button. This should take you back to the treatment entry screen. The cursor should now appear in the first modifier column. This is where you would type in any modifiers that you would want to print out on the HCFA form in box 24D. Type in WF as a modifier here, and then push the tab key. This will take you to the second modifier column. This modifier will appear to the right of the procedure code on the HCFA form. Enter any additional modifiers that you would want to appear next to the procedure code you just entered. After the correct information has been entered, push the tab key. This will take you to the anatomical location field. You could use this field to indicate the anatomical location of the treatment. To see a list of the locations and the corresponding abbreviations, use the wildcard or the @ sign. Since none of this information prints on the form, you do not have to put anything here. In this case, you will not be using this field for this particular treatment. Close the window that lists the locations by clicking on the little square in the upper left-hand corner. Then push the tab key to move on to the charge for this procedure. This is where you indicate how much you will charge for this particular procedure. The amount $100 should appear here. Since this is the correct amount, you just push the tab key. This should bring you to the units field. If you are required to use days or units, this is where you enter in that number. Be aware that whatever number you enter here will give you a new charge amount. If you were to enter a 5 here, the charge would be multiplied by 5. Now you want to add another diagnosis. In order to add another diagnosis or procedure, click on the Add Item button. This will put the cursor into the diagnosis column on the second line. Now you can enter in the second diagnosis. Type in 1 and then push the tab. This will bring up a list of diagnoses which begin with the number 1. Select any of these diagnoses by clicking on it. This will put that diagnosis in the second diagnosis position. Now, since you don't have a second procedure here, you do not want anything in the column 24E for a second procedure. Everything to the right of the diagnosis code on this line relates to the procedure. If you did put anything here, it would print out on the second procedure code line. So push the delete key on the keyboard, and then you will be finished with this screen. Note that in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen there is a total charge field. This is the total amount charged for the office visit. Do not confuse this with the patient's balance. When the information on this screen is correct and complete, click once on OK. This will take you to the second treatment entry screen. In the upper left-hand corner of the screen is the Bill To status of the claim. This is where the claim you are generating is going to be sent. Usually, the primary insurance company is highlighted. To change the Bill To, just click on the desired choice. What is selected here will determine who is currently considered responsible for this claim by SoftFoot. Primary insurance, secondary insurance, patient. If Bill To insurance is not selected, please click on this. If it is already selected, you can leave this area alone. decide how you wish to process this claim. If you look to the right of the Bill To box, you will see an area labeled Processing Method. The default setting will appear with a bullet next to that choice. The 5 different choices are Batch Print. Selecting this option puts this claim into a batch file to be printed at the end of the day. Print. Selecting this option will give us a printout as soon as you push OK, when you are finished entering the information on this screen. ECS. Selecting this option puts the claim into the electronic claims file, where it can be processed later. Remember, this is an option you would use only if you have electronic claim submission. Process manually. Selecting this option causes SoftFoot to acknowledge the claim but does not output anything. You would use this option when the claim does not need to be submitted and the patient does not require a copy of the bill. Hold for later recall. Selecting this option puts the claim into a hold file where it can be submitted at a later date. You could use this option if you do not wish to submit a claim until you feel a patient has met their deductible. You could also use this option if you need to get more information from the patient before printing the claim. Please select Print as your processing method. When you get into this screen, the cursor should be flashing in the payment field. This is the shortcut method for entering patient's payment at the time of service. Do not enter insurance payments here. You will not be entering any information here. Push the Tab key. Now the cursor will bring you to the check number field. This is where you could enter in the check number from the patient's payment if it were a check. It is not necessary to enter check numbers here. Entering check numbers here allows you to do a computerized deposit slip at the end of the day. Since you have not entered a payment, you will not enter anything here. Push the Tab key. The next field you should see is payment type. If you had received a payment from the patient at the time of service, you could select the type of payment form here. This is a pop-up menu. To select a different type of payment, click and hold on the area where the type of payment is shown and select the desired type. Since you received no payment, you will not change this area. The cursor should now be in the bank number field. If you had entered a patient payment, you could enter the patient's bank number from the check here. Like check number and payment type, this is optional. Since you are not entering a payment, just push the Tab key. The cursor should now be in the Date Last Seen field. This is where you would enter the date that the patient was last seen by their medical doctor. Do not enter the date last seen by the treating doctor here. You do not have to be specific to a day here. If you know only the month and the year, SoftFoot will accept that. Enter 8-92 here and push the Tab key. Keep in mind that you only have to enter this information if you need it to print on the patient's insurance form. The next field you came to is Accept Assignment. To switch between yes and no here, just push the space bar. SoftFoot gives you the option to determine whether you accept assignment on a per-treatment basis. Since you're accepting assignment on this particular patient, you want yes selected here. Then push the Tab key. This should take you to the Recall In field. This is where you can indicate when this patient is due to be seen again. If the patient is to be seen again in 6 weeks, enter the number 6 here. Then take the mouse and click and hold on the pop-up menu field, where the unit of time, days, weeks, or months, is. It will pop up with the choice of either days, weeks, or months. Choose the appropriate unit of time and then push the Tab key. The correct reminder date should appear to the right. You can change this date when in this field by typing in a new date here. On the right side of the screen, there is a button labeled Options. Click on this button now. This will take us to a new screen. This is where you would go to fill out the various boxes that are related to workers' compensation cases. There's also a place for putting information in box 10D on the HICFA form. Since you do not need to have any of these areas filled out, just take the mouse up and click on the Return button. This will take us back to the second treatment entry screen. Moving up the right side of the screen, the next button you encounter is Go Back. Click on this button now. This will take us back to the first treatment entry screen. Now click on OK. Now you should be back to the second treatment entry screen. Now click OK. SoftFoot will ask you to insert an insurance form into the printer. Do this, then click OK. SoftFoot should now print out the form. This saves the information and takes you back to the banner screen. If you were to click OK Next, SoftFoot would save the information and bring you to a blank treatment entry screen. Well, congratulations, you've just finished treatment entry. Matt will be back for payment entry.
If you wanted to view or change this treatment, you'd go to the treatment menu and select Edit Treatment. Remember, Insert is always putting something new into SoftFoot, and Edit is always changing something that is already in SoftFoot. Now that you're an expert in entering patients and treatments, it's time to learn about entering payments. Select Insert Payment from under the Payment menu. This should take you to a blank payment entry screen. Unlike the other screens, the first thing we encounter here is not a field for entering in the patient's name. Instead, the first field is used to enter in the date of the payment. This is the highlighted area of the screen. The default should be today's date. Leave it on this date and push the Tab key. This should take you to the check number field. This is where we enter in the check number for the payment. Enter in the number 1234. After that information has been entered, hit the Tab key. The cursor will now be in the bank number field. Enter the bank number 567-89 here and push the Tab key to put us into the insurance company field. Type the word Acme here and push the Tab key. This should bring up Acme Insurance. Now hit the Tab key again and we should be at the last name field. If you look at last name, you can see that it's a pop-up menu. If you take the mouse and click and hold where the word that last name appears, a list of different ways for bringing up the patient's account appears. In other words, you can bring up the correct patient account by entering either the last name, account number, claim number, Social Security number, or HIC number. Type in the patient's last name, then hit the Tab or Return key. Normally, if the patient had more than one outstanding claim, SoftFoot would bring up a list of all the patient's outstanding claims and allow you to choose the one which you wish to apply the payment to. Since our patient had only one outstanding claim, that claim should have automatically come up. Now let's take a close look at the box in which you'll be entering the payments. The first item in the box is the CPT code. SoftFoot lists each claim by the CPT codes involved in the treatment. In this way, you can apply an amount paid to a particular procedure on a code-by-code basis, or you can just apply the total amounts. The charge is the amount charged for each procedure by your office. All totals are found on the bottom line, which is labeled totals. The amount due column tells us the amount the patient still owes on each particular procedure. Since you have not applied any payments to the claim yet, this amount should be the same as the charge amount. The next column is the approved column. After you push Tab, SoftFoot will take you to the total approved amount. Normally, you would enter in the amount approved by the insurance company here. Sometimes these amounts will have already been put in the computer for procedures. When these amounts have already been entered in, they are called profiles. Of the $100 amount, our insurance company approves $50. So type 50 here and push the tab key. This should take us to the amount paid field. This is the total amount paid by the insurance company. Our insurance company paid only $40 on this particular claim. So type in 40 here and push the tab key. This should move us to the next field, the adjustment field. This is the total adjustment. It is the difference between the total amount due and the total approved amount. The reason this is an adjusted amount is because you accepted assignment on this patient. In other words, you were told by the insurance company how much they would allow your office to be paid for this particular procedure. Because you accept the cost assigned to you, you must adjust the difference between the amount you charge and the amount they allow you to charge. The next column is the balance column. This is the amount the patient still owes on each procedure. This amount is derived from all the other columns. Now if you look at the top of the center of the screen, you will see two pop-up menus. The first of these is called Payment Type. This is where you tell SoftFoot what type of payment was made. It is a pop-up menu. To select a different type of payment, take the mouse and click and hold on the area where the type of payment is shown. A list of all the other types should appear. Since our payment was a check, select Check here. Below Payment Type is the Adjustment Type. This is where you tell SoftFoot what type of adjustment was made. Again, it is a pop-up menu. To select a different type of adjustment, take the mouse and click and hold on the area where the type of adjustment is shown. A list of the other types should appear. Since the insurance company assigned the amount we were allowed to charge, you should select Assigned Adjustment here. Select this adjustment type here. Under the adjustment type is the interest field. Sometimes an insurance company will pay an interest on a claim if it is unusually late in paying that claim. If you received an interest payment from an insurance company, you would enter it here. Since our claim was promptly handled, you will not be entering anything here. Just push the tab key. This should take you to the deductible field. If the patient had money applied to their deductible, you could enter it here. Below the deductible field is the Display All checkbox. If this item is active, there's an X in the little box. Before you have brought up the patient's claim, SoftFoot will allow you to apply payments to all the patient's claims rather than just the ones which are considered open. You could use this option to enter payments in for a claim that has a $0 balance or if you were overpaid on a claim. Now let's look down at the lower left-hand corner of the screen to the Bill To box. This is where SoftFoot allows you to determine the status of this claim after the payment has been entered. Since you have just received payment from the insurance company, SoftFoot should automatically switch the status of this claim to Bill To Patient. This will allow us to print out a bill for the patient. Moving to the right, the next box you encounter is the Processing Method box. This is where you tell SoftFoot how you are going to process this claim. It works exactly like the processing method described in the second treatment entry screen. The choices are batch print, print, ECS, process manually, and hold for recall. For a description of what each of these choices means, why don't you return to the treatment entry screen. In this case, we want print selected here. In the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, you see the Bill Date box. This box gives you information about this claim. It gives you information which pertains to this particular payment. You might notice that below this box is a button labeled Notes. SoftFoot allows you to access the patient notes from the payment screen. To view the patient notes, click once on the Notes button. Click Return to go back to the main payment screen. If you notice the Notes button, you probably also notice the Comments button. These are comment fields which relate specifically to this patient only. To access the three comments fields, click this button. The fields are the Statement Comment, a comment that will appear on this particular patient's statements, Bill Comment, a comment which will appear on this particular patient's bills, and Office Comment. This is a comment that can be entered in the computer, which is for office viewing only. It will not print out on any patient communication. Now let's look at the upper right-hand corner of the screen. As in the other screen, clicking OK saves the information and takes you back to the banner screen. Clicking OK and Next takes you to a new payment entry screen with the same date, check number, bank number, and insurance company as the previous screen. You would select this option if you were entering in a group of payments from the same explanation of benefits. Take the mouse up and click OK now. SoftFoot should ask you to insert your bill or statement header into the printer. Do so, then click OK. SoftFoot should now print out a bill for your patient. Hold on to this bill. Congratulations, you've now finished the 3 main parts of the SoftFoot program. Feel free to go back to any of these sections that you feel you need to review. Next, you'll be taking a look at one of the most important screens in SoftFoot. It's called the Patient Account screen. This is the screen that you'll be going to whenever you need information that deals with one specific patient. Almost all the patient information can be accessed through this screen. To get to this screen, select Patient Account from under the Patient menu. Then type in either the patient's last name or account number. Type in the patient's last name, then click OK. This should take us to his Patient Account screen. SoftFoot allows you to use 2 different types of patient account screens. Since many of our clients use the new format, we will be showing that one on our screen. The screens are set up in a very similar format, so this should not present a problem. The upper left-hand corner of this screen gives you the patient's full name, account number, and balance. The upper right-hand corner tells you the patient's insurance in order of primary, secondary, etc. The rectangle in the center of the screen lists all of the patient's claims and gives you financial information relating to those claims. Click once on the Patient Info button. This should bring you to the patient's information screen. This is the screen where we first entered in information for this patient. You can also change any information while we're here. Click on OK and we should go back to the Patient Account screen. Clicking the Health button here brings up a screen that gives detailed information regarding this screen. Clicking either of the 2 sort buttons allows you to change the way that the patient claims are listed above. Since this patient only has a single claim, nothing should happen when you click on Sort. Clicking the Detail button allows us to get information which relates to a specific claim. In order to use this Detail button, first click on the claim you want to get the information on, and then click the Detail button. This will take us to a screen which gives us detailed information on any of the above claims. The long rectangular box in the upper part of the screen is the Payment Info box. It contains the information regarding payments that relate to this claim. The long rectangular box in the lower part of the screen is the Procedure box. This gives us a line-by-line description of each procedure with codes, diagnoses, and charges. The Bill To and Processing Method boxes in the center of the screen work just like the ones you saw in treatment and payment entry screens. You could change the status of the Bill To or Processing Method from this screen. Now click OK to get back to the main Patient Account screen. The button labeled Print Statement OS allows you to print a statement up to the patient which lists all the patient's outstanding claim information. Outstanding claims are considered to be open by SoftFoot. A statement is an itemized printed list of all the patient's financial activity which is considered open by the computer. You can think of it as being similar to a credit card monthly statement. It tells the patient what their total balance is. Similarly, the button labeled Print Full Statement allows you to print up a statement which lists all of the patient's treatments and payments, regardless if they are considered open or closed by SoftFoot. The Print Treatment option allows you to print a single claim. This prints either a bill or an insurance claim. Printing a treatment is different than printing a statement because the information given only relates to one treatment. To use this option, you would first have to select the claim from the above claim box and then click this button. Click OK here to take us back to the SoftFoot banner screen. Now that you're completely done your video training of SoftFoot, we need to remove this fictitious payment from the computer. To do this, go to the Patient menu and select Delete Patient. SoftFit should take you to a screen similar to the one shown here. Type in the patient's last name, then hit OK. Now SoftFit should take you to a screen that looks like this. Make sure that the Delete Financial Info checkbox is selected and click OK. When SoftFit asks you if you're sure you want to remove this patient, click Yes. This should remove all of the patient's information. Now if you wish to get out of the program, go to the File menu and select Quit. This should take you back to the desktop screen. If you want to turn off the computer, go to the Special menu and select Shut Down. This should turn your computer off. If you'd like to see some more of the advanced features of SoftFit and time-saving shortcuts, keep on watching. One of the first topics we're going to cover are keyboard shortcuts. A keyboard shortcut allows you to perform certain functions without using your mouse. To see how a keyboard shortcut works, take your mouse up to the treatment and pull that menu down. See how certain items have things that look like four-leaf clovers with letters next to them? This indicates that these are keyboard shortcuts. Now look on your keyboard for a key that has the same type of mark on it. This is called the Command key. See how Insert Treatment has the Command key and the letter T next to it? Now if you let go of the mouse, hold the Command key down and type a T, SoftFit should bring you to a new treatment entry screen. In other words, we have bypassed using the menu. You will see these commands in most Macintosh programs. They usually do different things in different programs. Some of the most common keyboard shortcuts are Command Q, which causes the program you're working on to quit, and Command W, which allows you to close a window. If you're working in a word processing program, Command S allows you to save your work. On many of the screens, there are certain areas that are called active objects. If you put in a patient's name and push Tab, SoftFit will bring up this patient's doctor and facility. If you take your mouse and click on the black area where it says last name, account number, SoftFit should bring up a screen which gives you much of the important information relating to this patient. If you wanted to, you could click on Print here and get a printout of this screen. To go back to the treatment entry screen, simply click OK. Now take the mouse and click on the black rectangle which says Referring Doctor. If the patient has a referring doctor listed here, SoftFit should bring up a screen that shows the information that relates to this physician. In this way, you can check to make sure that the doctor's UPIN number has been entered. Again, click OK to get back to the treatment entry screen. Active objects are located throughout SoftFit. If you're not sure if an object is active, try clicking on it. If nothing happens, then it's probably not an active object. Sometimes you may want to see the description of the procedures and diagnoses that you've just entered in for a patient. If you enter in the diagnosis and procedure code here and you wish to see the descriptions of both, just take the mouse and double-click anywhere on that line. SoftFit should bring up a screen like this one, showing the codes, descriptions, and charges that relate to this line. You cannot change the information from this screen. It's only for viewing it. You also might want to look at the patient's information screen before entering in the treatment. In order to do that, click on General Patient Info in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen. Then click the Edit button to the right of it. This should take you back to the patient entry screen where you can make any necessary changes to the patient's information. Clicking OK on this screen will take you back to the treatment entry screen. All the items in this box can also be edited from this screen. To change any of them, just click on the desired item and then click the Edit button. You may notice that a box that is very similar to this one is available on a number of different screens. Anytime you see a box like this, you can access any of these fields. Now let's look at the different ways in which you show which procedures relate to which diagnoses. In this instance shown on the screen, our patient has 3 diagnoses and 2 procedures. If both procedures relate to all 3 diagnoses, the DX column 24E should look like this. Having 1, 2, 3 here says that the procedure to the right of this column relates to all 3 diagnoses to the left. In other words, everything from here on over on this line relates to the procedure. Now, if the second procedure relates only to the third diagnosis, our screen should look like this. Having a 3 here indicates that our second procedure relates only to the third diagnosis. Now let's take a look at a shortcut you can use when entering in Medicare patients. When you come to the part of the patient entry screen, when you're ready to enter in the insurance company, select Add Medicare from the Patient menu at the top of the screen. Doing this will automatically bring you to a patient insurance entry screen. The screen should have Medicare as the primary insurance company. The patient's Social Security number should appear in the Insurance ID field, and the patient's correct birth date and gender should also appear. Self should be selected in relation to Insured box. Doing this also puts the flashing cursor at the end of the Insured's ID number so you can easily put in the appropriate letter. Another important thing you should know about SoftFit is the difference between canceling a record and deleting a record. You might notice that under the OK button, there's sometimes a button labeled Cancel. Selecting Cancel does not delete the record you are working on. It just does not save the changes made since the last time you clicked OK. In other words, if you were editing a patient's file to change the patient's phone number, and you got done changing the phone number and realized that the original phone number was actually the correct one, you could click Cancel. SoftFit would revert back to the original phone number. In other words, the changes you have made will not be saved. Well, that wraps it up for the basics of SoftFit video. If you have any questions regarding this video, feel free to call the technical support line. One of our representatives will be more than happy to help you. Thank you and good luck with the program.